hesitation creeping in, but you look so good and I know what you're offering. Phone's lighting up, but I'm just gonna let it ring. Yeah, my phone's lighting up, but I'm just gonna let it ring. Is it the liquor in my system? My desires are so real. Got me caught up in this rhythm. Draw me in and make me feel. Draw me in and make me feel. Draw me in and make me feel. Make me hesitation creeping in, but you look so good and I know what you're offering. Phone's lighting up, but I'm just gonna let it ring. Yeah, my phone's lighting up, but I'm just gonna let it ring. Is it the liquor in my system? My desires are so real. Got me caught up in this rhythm. Draw me in and make me feel. Make me feel.
I wish a void opened in the air to suck me up, 'cause I really don't care. While I'm falling, I wondered if you would miss me when I'm gone. While I'm falling, I wondered if you would miss me when I am gone. I feel so hollow, hollow inside, hollow inside. water cause I'm drowning and you made it. Met you on the corner, first in love, it was payday. Candy colored nails, match the candy coated bands. I needed your contact, my eyes bugging out my head. Cause you hot as shit, nah, I just see African. Not no bottom, bitch, top notch out here. Love me like I love myself, love it when she smile at me. White teeth with a heart of gold, and I'ma put a diamond in it. Ring, 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 love calling me. Ring like the camera is free, when she calling me. Ring, 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 love calling me. Ain't gon' pay a money to pick you up, you stay down for me. Eyes closed, arms out, flying. Red Bull, babe, you give me wings, pilot. Girl, I know your voice, sound like love calling me. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. And I ain't miss a call yet. Love called again, and I ain't miss a call yet. All around freak in a nurse circumference. When she round me, she come first, and she quick. She say she feel my emotions when I just give thanks, can't believe we in the same bed. God do it best. Shout out to my angel, she a mess. Clean up when she stressed, never stressing me. Lucky please, I'm the luckiest. Feel it in my chest. Treasure you, I swear you a diamond. Ring, 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 ring. Love calling me. Ring like the camera is free when she calling me. Ring, 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 ring.
Alright, darling, how am I coming through?
And I ain't miss a
Good?
call.
Okay. I decided
You're coming back through.
I'm reverbing. I don't know how. Just for once, I don't hear the reverb on my side.
And I ain't miss a call yet.
Is your phone volume up? Normal? The same?
Normal. Yeah.
And it's not coming through the computer.
I have the computer muted. It's like the only thing I'm getting sound right now is here.
Wait a minute.
And this world ain't right, won't accept it. Negative energy, I expect it. Once it's in your mind, it's infectious. So fight for your life and reject it. You better give me space, I'm protective. My adrenaline spikes when I'm threatened. And if you stay in my way, I'm aggressive. Cause when there's no exit, I'll kill when I'm desperate. When there's no exit, I'll kill when I'm desperate. And this world ain't right, won't accept it. Negative energy, I expect it. Once it's in your mind, it's infectious.
this. So fight for your life and reject it. You better give me space, I'm protective. My adrenaline spikes when I'm threatened. And if you stay in my way, I'm aggressive. Cause when there's no exit, I'll kill when I'm desperate. When there's no exit, I'll kill when I'm desperate.
So sweet to me. This is where I wanna be. On up with you, supersonic. We're on fire, rockin' love alive. On up with you. Just in the backseat of the Beamer, put my feet up, how you feeling? Yeah, yeah. Just in the backseat of the Beamer, put my feet up, how you feeling? Yeah. Just in the backseat of the Beamer, put my feet up, how you feeling? Yeah, yeah. Just in the backseat of the Beamer, put my feet up, how you feeling? Yeah. Just in the backseat of the Beamer, put my feet up, how you feeling? Just in the backseat of the Beamer, put my feet up, how you feeling? So sweet to see. This is where I wanna be. So sweet to me. This is where I wanna be. On up with you. So sweet to me. This is where I wanna be. On up with you. Supersonic. We're on fire. Rockin' love alive. On up with you. Rockin' love alive. On up with you. Just in the backseat of the Beamer, put my feet up, how you feeling? Yeah, yeah. Just in the backseat of the Beamer, put my feet up, how you feeling? Yeah. Just in the backseat of the Beamer, put my feet up, how you feeling? Yeah, yeah. Just in the backseat of the Beamer, put my feet up, how you feeling? Yeah.
One mistake is all that it takes to break up the trust that we made. I'm open to changing my ways this time. Oh, why do I fall for it every time? I'd do anything to keep you mine. So just call my name. Tell me you're never leaving, won't you stay? And I'll play your games as long as the fire doesn't fade away. Yeah, just call my name. Yeah, just call my name. Yeah, just call my name.
Welcome,
Oh,
welcome,
that.
welcome. We are live.
Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? By the way, I finally got to see the transition now, so it's like, yes, that is very cool.
Forgot my Dr. Pepper.
You forgot your Dr. Pepper. If I pop off screen real quick, um, my DoorDash is almost here. So,
We are not sponsored by Dr. Pepper, but we
or
are
Red Bull, but
powered
we
by
need to
it.
be.
But we're powered by it.
I was actually very
Oh
upset. When I put in my DoorDash order, they were out of Dr. Pepper. I was like, sad face.
no, this is not actually a test. It is a reattempt at Sunday's broadcast.
Right.
I don't know what to tell you, Leon.
You thought it was Friday? Okay. I wish. Hold on. I'll be right back.
So we've got 8 to get through tonight, and I do have to make sure we stay on target, that we stay on track, because it's a school night, for lack of a better word. Yeah, stream seems good. And like I was talking to you in Discord the other day, um, when everybody in my neighborhood is on the internet, this is what happens. So more than likely nobody's on the internet tonight, which really sucks because I have a Monday through Friday job, and moving our stream into the middle of the week. Eh, I need new house slippers. They're flopping off my feet. Some quick uh catch up. So again, this is the second half of episode 2, because we had issues Sunday night. And in the writing, if you are following along with the track bear uh, numbers, we have surpassed 90K. Nutter can probably tell you the exact numbers at this current point, as they are so far in the future. Um, so, I mean, we're going to hit the 100,000 before we even end January. Oh. Once again, as we know, this is the Hold My Pen Promptcast, where we give you a prompt that is voted on you by you every Saturday night, and then you have all week to write it. Submissions are due 3 p.m. Central Time. Adjust your times accordingly. We also have a newsletter. Do not forget to sign up for that if you are not already on it, because thanks to you guys putting up with ads, using Prime subscriptions, or gifting subscriptions to other people, along with special thanks to C Developer, affectionately known as CD around here. Thanks to you guys, we have already gotten another payout, and we now have enough for the uh, newsletter, the extra plus benefits that we have at beacons.ai. Um, we already have it for March. It's not due until around my birthday, end of March, and yet we already have it. It's already sitting there ready and waiting to make the payment. So thank you so very much for your assistance in that matter. Your support could not be more welcome because that allows us to be able to send it out to people who maybe aren't part of Discord, don't get to make Saturday or Sunday night lives. And so you guys have made that possible. Thank you very much. Also, even though we are doing January Fresh Ink, where everybody's submissions are anonymous and we are not revealing them until the night of February 1st, the words are given to us with permission by the authors. They belong to the authors and they are not to be used to train AI in any capacity for generative AI purposes. Neither is our voices, particularly mine as I read out the stories. So, yeah. Feel like I should put on tennis shoes, gym shoes, sneakers, whatever. So we've got an ad starting in 2 minutes. For those of you who do not have subscriptions or Prime subscriptions, you can throw at us. There will be an ad in less than 2 minutes. Which is why we also simultaneously cast over to YouTube.
It is. It is. It is.
We already have a ton of submissions in for Saturday. You guys are amazeballs.
And from what I've seen popped up earlier, we already have 90,000 or over 90,000 for
Yep.
the bear share.
Yep. All right, gotta put shoes on, but I don't want to put my boots on because boots are heavy, but my house slippers are driving me bonkers. It does not look like we have uh, Patrick or Shar tonight. And we know that Kesh is in the comments. Oh, speak of the devil. I just had to say his name.
It's like he was just here a minute ago.
And Kesh is in the comments. She's driving, so will not be able to be on the screen. Fun fact, my spirit animal is a black bear. So there we go. All right, so we have covered the track bear numbers. So we've covered the newsletter and the fact that you all have paid for this next year's numbers that we need to send out in a month. And oh, okay, Kesh hasn't left work yet. My apologies. And we've also covered AI. Our voices and the words are not to be used. So we have 8, right? We
Yes.
have 8 to get through for. Come on, load.
And I have the wheel up, so we're ready to go. Gotta love the commentary.
All right. Right. So we've got just over 13,600 words to get going through. So, Julie, spin the wheel and tell us who our first victim is. Submitter number what?
Submitter number 14.
All right. There we go. Where did my thing go here? Okay. Up first, submitter number 14. Nadine stepped off the bus, oriented herself, and trudged toward Tacolicious. What have I gotten myself into? Not for the first time, Nadine wondered how she always got herself into situations like this. In chest high floodwater, fighting against the current toward a newly formed bank in a futile attempt to save her camera equipment, insulting an entire village by politely declining the elder's daughter in marriage with prized progenitor as bonus, sharing tea with a guide while draped with flowers, and waking the next morning in his marriage bed. Those kinds of things happened out in the world, not at home. She didn't even know what this Jeremy looked like. Pushing through the restaurant's door, Nadine realized she needn't have worried. Sitting at a foretop in the center of the space, using two fingers to scroll on the touchpad of an open laptop, was the only patron dressed in a suit. She approached, wringing her hands around her crossbody bag's strap. Jeremy? His neatly trimmed jaw looked up, a broad smile reaching his brown eyes behind smart, wire rimmed glasses within milliseconds. Nadine! He stood then, his head rising higher and higher until it nearly hit the dangling light above the table. Her neck strained up and up to maintain eye contact. He reached a large, beefy hand out to her, leaning in. It's so nice to finally meet you. Nadine's heart pounded through her ears as she took it, gulping when he dwarfed hers between both of his. Darcy's interest suddenly made a lot of sense. The longevity of the dalliance was another matter entirely. You too, she squeaked. She pushed a strand of strawberry blonde hair behind her ear and looked down at the chair across from him, extracting her hand carefully. He startled momentarily. Oh, yes, yes, sit. I'm so sorry. Where are my manners? He signaled to the waitstaff behind him before sitting again. I didn't want to presume you would want water or something stronger for this, so I didn't order ahead. Have you been here before? Nadine gave a small nod. It's in the neighborhood. Good, good. Order whatever you want, and then we'll get started. He glanced up as the waiter approached. Her order is on my bill. Thank you. Her eyes widened. Damn, he really does like Darcy. Or he's doing a great job of schmoozing me to keep his hot Friday night date. Nadine gave her order, nothing too extravagant, her stomach still flip-flopping from the early morning argument. Combined with the spicy smells of the restaurant, it wasn't helping settle anything. The waiter poured water in a glass and set it in front of her. She sipped the cool liquid gratefully. Nadine, this last will and testament is a trip. Have you looked at any of this yet? She shook her head. I'm not versed in legalese. I saw it was 25 pages, though. Jeremy shrugged. Yes, I mean, that's not completely unheard of with physically large and possession rich estates. He rapidly slid two fingers down the touchpad several times. This part. To fully inherit, the heir must reside on the property and in the residence for 1 full year, 365 days, except if possession is taken in a leap year, in which the term is for 366 days, at the completion of which the heir may do as they see fit with the property and residence. That's pretty standard practice for older people who want their heirs to fall completely in love with the property and thereby less likely to sell it. Nadine sucked in a breath. Live there? For a year? Jeremy flicked his gaze up before returning to the screen. Yes, but here's the kicker. The heir must touch every item on the property and use their clues to determine the location's purpose without outside help. This whole thing is cryptic as hell. She nodded. Mr. Nunez said the same thing when I called him. Cryptic. That's the lawyer who sent this to you? Yeah, said he was an old friend of the deceased's and that she'd been his babysitter. And even he said it was cryptic? I'm wondering if he knows more than he's saying. Jeremy sat back as the waiter brought their food, the steam and aroma wafting between them. The smell hit her, activating an obnoxiously loud growl from the pit of her stomach. Jeremy looked at her, a lopsided grin growing. See? I told you. You needed to eat. Nadine shrank and turned away, her cheeks feeling warm. He laughed. No shade intended. Darcy said you tend to forget eating when working on a project. If this is your current project, I understand perfectly. She shook her head. It's not that at all, but I don't want to get into it. Let's focus on this. She unwrapped the silverware set beside the plate and laid the napkin across her lap. What other oddities are in this very cryptic will? Of what I've read, the rest is all using language just as obscure. Phrases like allow the house in and preserve metaphysical integrity are peppered all over this thing. He took a deliberate bite of his vampiro taco. Nadine stopped mid chew, blocking her mouth with a hand. I'm sorry, metaphysical integrity? What exactly does that fucking mean? Jeremy shrugged. I haven't the foggiest. Kansas, am I right? She swallowed and blinked wordlessly. He dabbed his lips with a napkin. Look, Nadine, I haven't even gotten halfway through it yet, but it is the most obfuscated and confusing thing I have ever read, even legally speaking. He pointed at his screen. The conditions of inheritance are clearly stated without being clearly explained. It's written as if she didn't have an heir designated, but definitely demonstrates what she wants done with it. So what do I do? That's the $750,000 question, isn't it? Do you have a deadline for your answer? How much? Nadine blanched. He didn't give me a date. Jeremy wiped his fingers and reached into the satchel on the chair next to him. He slid a sticky notepad and a pen toward her. Give Mr. Nunez this number. I'll finish looking over this tomorrow and get you a better list of bullet points. From there, if you want me to work with him on facilitation, we'll move forward. Nadine hesitated, hunched over her plate. But tomorrow's Friday, and I'm still not sure about this, she murmured. He glanced up from his plate. I understand, but this is important, and why I'm not charging you for any of this. I told you, it's off book. That doesn't mean illegal. It means free legal advice. She stayed silent. He sighed. This is obviously a big deal for you. Darcy, sounds like Darcy talks too much, Nadine grumbled. Yes, Darcy talks a lot, but he trailed off, scrunching his nose. She doesn't talk that much. Defensive much? Jeremy smirked. Okay, I obviously care about her. A lot. And I happen to know that she cares for you a lot. Ergo. He leaned back in his chair. Did you think all we do is fuck? Nadine startled. That's exactly what she'd thought. I, he laughed. I hate to break it to you, honey, but not all adult relationships require labels, exclusivity, or restriction to sexual transactions. Nadine's face heated. I didn't mean. She trailed off, fidgeting with the pen. I know you didn't, and it's okay. He closed the laptop. Give me that number. I'll just have to prove my competence. Considering this meeting, how it's even come about, I understand and have no issue. She copied the Kansas lawyer's number from her phone and slid the pen and pad back to him. I'm sorry. Jeremy picked them up and smiled. Nothing to apologize for, Nadine. I'm a big boy with thick skin. We just want to be here for you. How's your taco? She glanced at her plate, appetite faded, and nodded. I think I'll take the rest to go. He nodded. Same. I have a meeting this afternoon, but I know I'll be thinking about this case the entire time. I may not even wait for tomorrow. He signaled the waiter, holding up two fingers before pointing to their plates. Really? Nadine shrank further into her sweatshirt. Yeah, this inheritance has the potential to change your whole life. You'll want to understand it in full before trying to loop in your partner. They're not a concern, Nadine replied quickly. He snapped his head toward her. Oh, okay. That's the I don't want to talk about it from earlier, she murmured. Got it. Jeremy's eyes softened. Does Darce? Nadine nodded. When I called her for your number. I see. Thank you for sharing that with me, Nadine. I know you didn't have to. Sure, whatever. Anyway, her words trailed again. So, thanks for Linner? Dunch? Deflecting with humor again. Why did Jamie have to be right about that one? Jeremy gave her a small but seemingly genuine smile. Let's call it an early dinner. I'll call you Monday afternoon with whatever I have, not a moment earlier. Enjoy your weekend, and don't worry about this at all. He thanked the waiter as he approached, taking the bill and containers. Without asking, he shifted her leftovers off the plate and into one, never touching the food or disturbing the presentation. He closed the lid and handed it to her. She glanced up at him, incredulous. Thanks, I guess? He lost a fraction of his cool charm, dipping his chin. I waited tables during law school, got good at it. So everyone sent me out with the takeout boxes and to bust their tables. At least they shared tips with me. He handled his own food and stood, still impossibly tall and nearly hitting the dangling lamp. Want to lift home? Or would you prefer the bus again? Nadine stood, taking her lunch in hand. I think I need to think a bit, so I'll walk. Nadine. He gave her a pitying look, one she was quite used to seeing on Darcy's face. It was disconcerting. I'll be fine, promise. Thank you for your help with this, Jeremy. I look forward to your call on Monday. He nodded. Can't wait to tell you what I find. She turned and walked away. Her nerves were shot. Her life was upended. Her apartment empty. Her 42nd birthday was right around the corner. Rebuilding in her 40s was not on the bingo card. Where to start? Dun dun dun. Did you think all we did was fuck?
Oh my god, I was over here eating a chicken strip, and then you said that damn line, and I was like, I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not on camera right now. People would have seen me choke. I I really need to know what's in that will. But
Well, besides the phrase metaphysical integrity.
look, I already had to Google, and even Google went what? You know what's bad when Google's like, I don't understand the question. Asked it wrong, but still, it's bad when Google doesn't understand the question.
Oh, there we go. Starting off with a good couple of F bombs there. Julie even puts in chat. I'm over here trying not to choke.
Yeah, it's like I couldn't do much because I was eating and I was trying not to be rude. So it's like literally, I'm like, you've got to be freaking kidding me.
No,
Um,
we we can like ignore how amazeballs Izzy's hair is. Thanks. All right, brother, you need the invite again, or is it still good?
Honestly, I have a lot of theories about this one in particular, but I'm hoping, keeping fingers crossed, we'll get more answers on Saturday, or at least this weekend. But it's like nagging at me. It's like, and there was a line in there, one in specific. It's like she wrote it like she never intended to have an heir.
Oh, she didn't have an heir designated.
Right. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, she was getting old, and she probably wrote this when she still had all of her faculties. This probably wasn't something that was thrown together last minute. But I think it was Trisha. No, Documancer. My bad. It's like I'm getting spooky witchy vibes. No, very much so, and Scooby Doo vibes too. Like, no, it was the caretaker and the mask. Why? Well, I don't know. Thought he'd get away with it. Sorry.
I don't know.
There is a lot of good dialogue in that, and I'm very proud that with the fresh ink, we're getting a lot of people who are stepping outside their comfort zone with the dialogue, with the way they write. Could not be happier about that. Okay, but here goes to the next one. Round and round and round we go. That's kind of fucked up. Submitter 9.
Submitter 9. All right. Okay, next up. Well, yeah, it's cold. We're in blizzard conditions. All right. The weight of knowing. As she took in the scene from the penthouse, she saw the city lights go out block by block. Or at least that's what she hoped would be the scene one day. But as of the current, there was no penthouse, just a concrete rooftop 3 flights up, a rusted access door that never quite latched, and a railing that leaned outward as if even it was tired of standing. But the line came anyway, uninvited, lodged in her skull like a borrowed thought. Someone else's words, someone else's life. She stood at the edge of the roof with her hands wrapped around a chipped ceramic mug, steam ghosting upward into the thinning dark. Below her, the street lights obeyed their unseen timer, blinking off in small, obedient clusters as dawn crept in, one corner at a time, one safe block, one lie layered neatly over another. She watched every morning, not because she liked the view, but because she needed proof the day had arrived. 20 years ago, there was a time that showed this wasn't supposed to be possible, statistically and clinically speaking. Spoken in low voices behind frosted glass while machines hummed and someone wrote notes they thought she would never read. Mornings had become a quiet defiance since then, a ritual. If she welcomed the day first, maybe it wouldn't try to end her. The city inhaled as the sun broke the horizon. Traffic would follow soon. Voices, movement, noise, other people carrying their grief like unsecured luggage. She took one last sip, grimaced at the bitterness, and set the mug down by the door. The wind tugged at her coat as she turned away, the rooftop already forgetting her presence. By the time she reached the school, the day was fully awake. 3 weeks into the term, the building had settled into its own rhythm. The initial chaos was gone. No more wrong classrooms, no more nervous laughter echoing too loudly in the halls. The students moved with purpose now, or at least the illusion of it. Teachers had resumed their brittle smiles. Lockers bore the dents and stickers of claimed territory. This was the dangerous part of the year. She felt it the moment she crossed the threshold. The air inside the school pressed against her skin, thick with residue. Emotions clung to the walls like old paint, layers upon layers of hope, resentment, boredom, panic. Most people filtered it out, learned how not to feel too much. She never had. Her shoes echoed softly against the tile as she walked past the front office, past the bulletin boards cluttered with overdue announcements and cheerful lies. She kept her gaze forward, posture neutral, breath measured. She had learned long ago how to look like she belonged anywhere. Then she reached the trophy case. She didn't mean to stop. Her body did it for her. The glass case stood along the main corridor, polished to a false shine, crammed with relics of victories long past. Tarnished medals, faded photos, names engraved in metal by people who had assumed permanence. She had walked past it dozens of times already this year without incident. Today, it hit her all at once. The emotion slammed into her chest without warning. Grief sharp enough to taste, pride rotting at the edges, a terror so old it had no name anymore. Her breath caught as her hand brushed the glass, fingertips grazing the cold surface. A girl's laughter, too loud, too brittle. A boy's rage, compressed and festering. The hollow ache of someone who had been seen too late. Her vision tunneled. She saw the reflection of her own face in the glass, pale and unfamiliar, layered over a team photo from decades ago. For half a second, she wasn't sure which one of them was the ghost. Not here, she told herself. Not now. She pulled her hand back as if burned and forced herself to keep walking, the echo of borrowed pain trailing behind her like a shadow that refused to detach. Behind the trophy case, unseen by most, a man paused mid-step. He had felt it too. Not the emotions themselves, but the disturbance. A ripple, a break in the pattern. He watched her retreating back with quiet recognition. So she was here. Goosey bumps. Goosey bumps. The main counselor's office, one of 3 in the building, smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and old books. Intentional, comforting, a curated illusion of safety. She sat in the chair opposite the desk, spine straight, hands folded loosely in her lap, and waited. Dr. Caldwell didn't speak right away. He studied her over steepled fingers, eyes sharp despite the soft lines of his face. He had been doing this a long time, long enough to know when silence was the more dangerous choice. You're aware, he said finally, that our approach has changed. She didn't blink. It always does. A thin smile flickered across his mouth. Not like this. After the last incident, protocols were revisited, adjusted. He chose his words carefully. We no longer rely on a single point of contact. Her fingers tightened imperceptibly. How many? She asked. 2, he replied. Always two: redundancy, accountability, less room for blind spots. 20 years ago, there had been only one. She nodded once, the motion precise. And you're confident this will prevent a repeat? No, he said honestly, but it may help us recognize it sooner. Something unspoken passed between them, a shared understanding that recognition did not always equal prevention, that sometimes it only meant bearing witness. As she stood to leave, he added, almost as an afterthought, one of the new observers requested this placement specifically. She paused at the door but didn't turn around. Why? She asked. Mr. Caldwell hesitated, then said, he said that patterns don't disappear, they just learn new disguises. Her hand rested on the doorknob, cold beneath her palm. She had the strangest sensation then, not of being watched, but of having already been seen. From the far end of the hall, the man from before watched her exit the office. Time had been unkind to both of them, though only one of them knew it yet. He recognized her posture, the way she carried herself as if braced for impact, the same way she had all those years ago, standing just outside the circle of attention, never quite in the light. He had tried to stop it then, but failed quietly. Now she was here, walking straight into the echo of a past she didn't remember him from. Not yet, and maybe not ever. He turned away before she could look up. There's work to be done. The bell rang. It was an ordinary sound, too ordinary for how sharply it cut through her. Students poured into the hallway, a sudden surge of bodies and noise and careless momentum. Lockers slammed, laughter ricocheted. Someone shouted a name she didn't catch. The borrowed emotions thinned but didn't disappear, like smoke after a fire had already burned itself out. She stepped aside, letting the current pass her, grounding herself in the rhythm of it. Count the breaths. Anchor to the present. This hallway. This year, not then. The counselor's words echoed anyway. Patterns don't disappear. She adjusted the strap of her bag on her shoulder and checked the time. Late morning. The part of the day where masks slipped just enough to be noticed. She made her way down the quieter wing, past classrooms where teachers droned and students stared through windows like they were waiting for permission to leave their own lives. The office door at the end of the hall was already open. Chrissy Henderson sat inside, perched on the edge of the chair, knees pulled close, hands knotted together so tightly her knuckles had gone pale. She looked smaller than her file photo suggested. 16 going on something much younger, wrapped in an oversized hoodie that swallowed her frame. Her leg bounced in a restless, unconscious rhythm. Chrissy didn't look up right away, and the air in the room shifted the moment she walked in. Not loud, not overwhelming, just dense. A low pressure system of emotion pressing inward from all sides. Sadness sat heavy in the air, tinged with guilt, fear, and something sharper beneath it all, something unfinished. She closed the door softly behind her. Chrissy, she said, keeping her voice even, neutral, safe. Chrissy flinched. Sorry, I didn't hear you come in. That wasn't true. Chrissy had heard her. She always did. Some people were tuned to danger long before it arrived. That's okay, she replied, taking the chair across from her instead of the one behind the desk. A deliberate choice. Thank you for coming in. Chrissy nodded, eyes fixed somewhere just over her shoulder. The wall, the window, anywhere but her face. Silence stretched. She let it. Finally, Chrissy spoke, the words tumbling out like she'd been holding them in for days. They said I should talk to someone. I didn't, I mean, I wasn't in trouble or anything. I know, she said gently. This isn't about trouble. Chrissy swallowed hard. Her emotions spiked at the word isn't. Hope flared, flaring and dying almost instantly. She felt it like a bruise blooming under her skin. Then why am I here? Chrissy asked. She considered the question carefully. Because sometimes, she said, people carry things alone for so long that it starts to show in ways they don't realize. Chrissy's fingers twisted tighter. I don't want to make a big deal out of it, she said quickly. I'm fine. Her voice cracked despite herself. I get tired. There it was. Not exhaustion. Not really. She leaned forward slightly. What kind of tired? Chrissy hesitated. Her gaze flicked up at last, meeting hers for half a second before darting away. In that brief connection, the emotions surged, grief so fresh it still bled, shame layered thick over anger that had nowhere to go. The kind where you wake up and you're disappointed, Chrissy whispered. Because you didn't, you know. She did know. 20 years ago, she had known that feeling intimately. Belated trigger warning. She kept her face calm, her posture open, even as something cold and furious coiled in her chest. This was how it always started, not with screams, not with threats, with disappointment, with quiet calculations made in the dark. Chrissy, she said carefully, have you been having thoughts about hurting yourself? Chrissy's breath hitched. Tears welled, unshed but desperate. I don't want to, she said. That's the part no one listens to. I don't want to. I just don't know how to make it stop. The room pulsed with her pain, raw and unfiltered. Took everything she had not to reach across the space between them. You did the right thing by coming here, she said instead. You don't have to figure this out alone. Chrissy laughed softly, humorless. Everyone says that. Not everyone means it. Something shifted then. A subtle release, the smallest easing of pressure. Chrissy's shoulders sagged just a fraction. Outside the office, down the hall, a man slowed his steps. He paused, hand brushing the cool surface of the locker beside him. Inside that room, the pattern had revealed itself again. And this time, there were two of them watching. By lunch, the building hummed with something sharper than usual. Groups clustered too tightly in the halls. Phones disappeared into sleeves when adults passed, then reappeared the second backs were turned. Laughter cut short, resumed in whispers. It wasn't fear exactly. Fear was too clean for this. This was anticipation, stretched thin over nerves, excitement sharpened by secrecy. The counselor felt it everywhere. A list was forming. She didn't need to see it to know. The faculty lounge was a different world, warm, bright, smelled faintly of burnt coffee and microwave lunches. The emotional temperature dropped the moment she stepped inside, not because things were calmer, but because everyone in the room believed themselves insulated, removed from consequence, from responsibility. I swear, kids get worse every year, someone said, pouring coffee. No attention span, no grit. They're bored, another teacher chimed in. They need structure. Challenge, the cheer coach corrected lightly, stirring cream into her cup. They thrive on challenge. The football coach leaned back in his chair, boots crossed at the ankles, taking up space like it belonged to him. It's good for them, teaches resilience. The counselor stood near the counter, listening. She felt it then, the undercurrent beneath his words. Not pride, not concern, Something uglier. Satisfaction. Another teacher hesitated, voice lowered. I heard some rumors. The football coach smiled, easy and indulgent. You always hear rumors. That explains more than you intended, the counselor said calmly. The room went still. He turned toward her, surprised. Genuinely. He hadn't expected resistance from someone like her. She met his eyes and felt the faint ripple beneath his confidence. Not guilt, not fear. Calculation. You said resilience, she continued. But what you mean is endurance. There's a difference. The cheer coach laughed softly, a sound like glass clinking. We're not talking about abuse. No, the counselor agreed. You're talking about tradition. Silence settled again, thicker this time, heavier, the kind that made people suddenly very aware of where they stood. The football coach shrugged. Look, I don't know what they teach you in counseling school, but kids need to toughen up. The world isn't gentle. The echo hit her then, a blindfold slipping, breath fogging fabric, the certainty, absolute and bone deep, that no one was coming back. No, she said quietly, but schools are supposed to be safer than the world. The cheer coach's smile thinned. You're overthinking this. That too never changed. She didn't argue, didn't need to. She took her coffee, untouched, and left the room with the weight of their emotions clinging to her like residue. In the hallway, the pressure spiked again. Someone was watching her. Counselor. She stopped. Elliot Mercer stood a few feet away, posture relaxed, expression neutral. History teacher. New this year. The kind of man people trusted instinctively. Open face, steady eyes, voice that didn't rush to fill silence. But his emotions betrayed him. Shock, fast, sharp, immediately buried. Recognition. Well, he said evenly, that was educational. She studied him carefully. She didn't feel the predatory excitement like she'd felt in the lounge. No satisfaction, no indulgence, just tension pulled tight beneath composure. You heard, she said. Hard not to, he replied. A beat. You okay? A loaded question. I'm fine, she said. The lie slid easily off her tongue. It always had. His gaze flicked to her badge, her name, back to her face. Something passed behind his eyes. Calculation of a different kind. Not how to protect himself. How to place her. Well, he said finally, stepping back to give her space, if you ever want a second set of eyes, history's full of patterns people pretend not to see. She met his gaze. Really met it this time. I'll keep that in mind, she said. He nodded once and walked away, blending back into the current of students and staff like he'd never stopped her at all. Only when he was gone did she exhale. Dun dun dun. What the the what the fuck? What the what the what the fuck? This story is not letting up. It's got the shorter sentences like we're constantly on edge the entire time. I don't know what the author intends to do with this, but I don't see it being a full on novel. Maybe novella, maybe short story, just because it is so compact with the emotions and my heart is beating like a mile a minute. Hopefully, Darkwing Duck doesn't get us.
I don't think you let it play long enough for us to get it with it. But oh my
Oh,
god, like
like I didn't
it's
even
like
have that kind of high school experience. I didn't even have that kind. Okay. Uh, d- and 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 yet I feel as though I'm there.
oh yeah, it,
Right? Doc's sitting there going, the wrench I could feel in the chat's throat. Like like vice grips on everybody's throat and their fingers, not even letting them frickin' type because they're sitting here going, what the fuck? What the what the fuck? What the fuck? Oh no,
right,
Doc, I feel you there. Doc said I had to fade out a few times because it hit too close to home. There was that one line with Chrissy.
yeah.
Disappointment upon waking up. Yeah, that's holy fucking hell.
Talk about a way to start the show.
Cryptic wills and high school traditions that leave people mentally and emotionally scarred. Oh, Leon's guessing, which reminds me that I have not been popping in the summary.
Doesn't that make you think about one specific author that popped in long ago and just exploded our minds since then? I mean, yeah. I love that. And he's just like, and with that,
Right? Jiminy Christmas.
be safe. Okay, on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and spin the wheel. Smitter 8. I mean, without the comic tiding, it's like we need to release. We need to collectively release the breath we are all holding.
Right? Okay. So, first one.
Well, I mean, be safe as in, okay, I don't know how far the drive is from house to school. And yes, being around a bunch of crazy kids, watch out for Legos. I don't know what age group we're talking about here. So literally, like, okay. With all of these like gut wrenching ones, by the time we make it to uh February 1st, that is going to be the best show. It just sticks. Yes, Jilly stares, and nobody be surprised. Jilly comes in and she looks like she's gone about 12 rounds on Saturday because I will be taking a sledgehammer to the rest of the concrete on my stairs. And whether I have to build them myself or not, there will be new stairs this weekend.
Okay. I had to play catch up.
I understand. The next one is number 8.
Right. Alrighty, here we go. Two votes for comedic smut. Okay. Sorry, I had to catch up on the comments. Okay, here we go. A terrible ache filled Toiseau as he stepped out of his house that evening, one which had nothing to do with his leg. He stared for a time at the door, rapping his fingers softly against the plaster. His eldest son loomed behind him, a boy on the cusp of manhood. Indeed, already a man in truth, more so than his frightened father. Go, Toiseau said, waving Puetassa away. But father, Puetassa protested. I shall use a cane. Go, please. It would not be right. I command you back inside, Toiseau snapped. His son flinched back, his eyes wide. After opening and closing his mouth thrice, Puetassa wordlessly stepped back inside, closing the door behind him. No sooner had he gone than Kanya appeared with Apicha at her side. The old woman frowned, her brow furrowing. He only wished to aid you. This must be only the two of us, Toiseau said, shaking his head. Send the girl away. No, she must come with me, Kenya said, her eyes narrowing. Very well, Toiseau croaked, taking up a cane and marching up the street towards the gates. Come quickly. I will be curious to see what this is all about, Kenya said quietly. Your insistence on discretion is unusual. It is as it must be, Toiseau replied, his leg aching more with every step. He could betray his oldest friend and end everything there by telling Kenya the truth. A voice told him that this was the wiser course to choose. Instead, he kept walking towards the setting sun, preparing to fulfill a childhood blood oath at the cost of everything he had built in the 40 years after sealing it. Full night had fallen, the owls hooting as they flew amongst the stars, when Puetassa slipped out of his family's home. Despite his father's words, he knew he had to go after the old man. Shivering in a chill breeze sweeping through the night, Puetassa stepped lightly but quickly to the walls, specifically to a spot where he could clamber up to a watch platform without being seen. For the two houses behind him blocked the view from the road, and neither had a window or door facing him. He managed to lift himself up halfway before a voice echoed through the night. Hey, what are you doing? Puetassa bit his tongue to keep himself from shouting, falling back to the land in a heap below. Spitting blood from his lips, he turned to see Namasta standing behind him, his brother scowling with her arms crossed. Well? He asked, his brow furrowing in irritation. What are you doing? Nothing. Go back to bed. It's not nothing. Well, it's something adults do. Your ceremony isn't for another half season. Now Masta gritted his teeth. You can't lie to me. I remember. We've not had it yet, and your naming day is on a much warmer one than this. Well, you're still 14 seasons out from your ceremony. That means I'm more adult than you are. I'm telling our mothers. They'll shave your head this time. Wait. Putasa took his arm, grimacing. I'm going after father. But he told you not to. Namasta rubbed his scalp. Sometimes adults are wrong. I know it was Tulatu who actually stole from the neighbor's house, even though everyone blamed you. What are you? Don't try to deny it, Putasa said firmly. Namasta shook his head, jerking his arm from Putasa's grasp. And how does that make you going after father okay? I see things that others miss, and I think father needs my help, even if he says he doesn't. That's not a good reason. Well, it's the one that speaks to me. Putasa turned his back, facing the wall. Go and tell our mothers if you must. I'm going after father. Then so am I, Namasta said stubbornly. Fine, Putasa said, not wanting to waste any more time arguing. Try to keep up or I'll leave you behind. He turned and began to climb again, his little brother clambering up after him. Soon they were on the platform and from there on the wall. With a practiced precision, Putasa dropped down onto the angled dirt and rolled into the defensive ditch around their village without injuring himself. He was just standing when Namasta landed beside him and rose as though he had done the maneuver 100 times before. Putasa exchanged a smirk with his brother, the two clambering up out of the ditch and right into Horseman's little campsite. Putasa blinked, having missed the dark lumps which were the man, his horse, and Kit from the walls. After a moment's hesitation, the two tried to edge around the little camp. These two brothers, just a quick aside, they are giving off Gen X energy. Sneaking out, rolling without getting hurt, doing what they think is best, despite the adults are total Gen X energy. Putasa held his breath, stepping carefully around the sleeping form of the man when his foot struck something hard. He bit his tongue to suppress his yell, but it was enough to awaken El Quelmos. With a snarling snort, the horseman leaped up from his bedding and drew a bronze dagger which flashed in the night as he uttered a guttural word. Wait, please, Putasa cried, toppling out of the way as he weakly held up his hands. Thieves in the night pay with their lives, El Quelmos growled. We're not stealing anything, Nomasta cried. We're going to see our father. He's in trouble. Why sneak like thieves? El Quelmos demanded, rolling the knife in his hands. Because the village doesn't know and would stop us going after him, Putasa said, forcing himself back to his feet. He took a steadying breath, forcing his hands to his sides and to look the horseman right in his eyes. He needs our help, whether he knows it or not. El Quelmos grunted, his knife lowering a finger length. Tell me, what foul fate do you believe will befall your sire? I'm not sure. That's why I have to go after him. The lost sons will come calling for aid, for want of knowledge. El Quelmos murmured. What are you saying? Namasta asked, anxiously patting at his scalp. I must come with you, he said, sheathing his knife and rummaging around in his things. Putasa grimaced, looking between his brother and now the horsemen who had invited themselves along. Why? A vision. Words from my tribe's shaman. He saw clearly this meeting. It is the will of the Sky Father. El Quelmos made a wording sign when he spoke those words. I must accompany you. Fine, but we're wasting time. Not wasting, spending, El Quelmos replied, taking a charm from his bag and shoving it at Putasa. Place this around your neck. Not wanting to argue, hoping it would make things go faster, Putasa donned the charm and said, Are we going to take your chariot? In the night? El Cuomo asked as though it were the most ridiculous thing he'd ever heard. No, my horse would break a leg in the dark. We shall walk the path before us. Putasa nodded, stepping into the night with his brother and the horseman behind him, hoping that he wasn't too late to help his father with whatever danger lay ahead. The torch burned in Apicha's sweating hands as she followed behind Toisru and Kanya through the woods. Long shadows, strange images, and alien noises lurked behind every trunk and stone. Her eyes moved rapidly, catching glimpses of nightmarish monsters and ghoulish attackers lurking behind everything. Always they would vanish when Apicha looked closer. Always they would reappear when her gaze drifted away. All the while, Kanya walked on serenely, her confident gait and calm expression sending a pang of sorrow through Apicha whenever she saw. If only I could have such control of myself, she thought despairingly, turning her gaze to Toisru, for he seemed just as unnerved as she felt, his hands fretting with one another as he looked back and forth across their path. Perhaps she is simply unique, and I should not think so ill of myself. Yet Apicha did think poorly of herself, jumping when an owl hooted and letting the torch slip from her fingers. She cried out, burning her fingers as she fumbled to lift it back up. Upon doing so, she saw that neither adult had seemed to notice, both still marching down the trail as though light or dark had no bearing. At last they came to the circle of stones, the forest opening up for that monument, and to Apicha horror, arrayed around them were forest gatherers, dark-skinned, piercing blue eyes, and wearing the skins of the animals they hunted or scavenged like buzzards. Apicha quailed, backing away from the wild men. A strong hand seized her shoulder. Apicha whimpering when she turned and looked into the shining eyes of another hunter blocking her way. So this is the reason you wished for no one to accompany us, Kanya said calmly. She turned her gaze upon Toisru, her eyes burning with anger. Now tell me why. I was faced with choosing between betrayals, Toisru croaked. And I have, I believe, chosen the lesser one. Your words explain to me far more than you intend, Kanya sighed, shaking her head slowly. Well, who is your leader? Bring him forth in this other betrayal of which he speaks. The tallest of the gatherers stepped forward, gesturing with his spear. Another came to him, dragging a third of their kind who had been bound and beaten. Toisru rushed forward, falling to his ancient knees and taking hold of his man. Praise the ancestors, Wulgo. You still live. And I am to die. Is that how this night ends? Kanya asked. No, the tallest gatherer said in a gruff voice. He stepped up to her, taking her chin in his calloused fingers. We need you for an important matter. You might have asked me if you merely wanted a blessing, curse, or ritual. You would have refused. The gatherer snapped his fingers, pointing at Kanya and Apicha. Take these two. Wait, that is not what we bargained, Toisru said hoarsely. You wanted the medicine woman, nothing more. Your medicine woman comes in two parts, the gatherer said. It is clear she is the apprentice, and it would not do well for us if the one we take should drop dead on the march. I told you to let me perish, the bound gatherer muttered. She is to be my son's wife, Toisru whimpered, clasping his hands. Please, you cannot do this. We can, and we shall. Take them. Apicha cried out in fear, trying to wrench herself free of the man holding her. To her amazement, he collapsed behind her, and a wave of her torch sent another retreating. For one brief moment, it seemed like she would save them all. That was when an arrow sailed into Toisru. Another gatherer punched Kanya to the ground, and Putasa ran screaming into the stone circle, all hell breaking loose around her in the churning of the night. Dun dun dun.
No, keep scrolling. There's something else there.
There is not. There is not.
Nothing.
Nothing more.
Grr. Burr, burr, burr. Bite me.
Holy Moses, mother of God. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, the names are really hard to remember who is who, but the story is gripping and
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble keeping up with the who's and the what's and what's, uh, but as the action moves forward, that's what I can
yeah,
follow. And
and yeah, phew. What the hell do
this,
the forest gatherers need the medicine woman for, and why are they taking both? And now Putasa's shoved himself in it, and he's got an unlikely ally going, "Whoa, what the fuck?" And there's a prophecy, and holy
that
mother!
was
That was submitter 8.
yes, that was submitter 8.
Whew. All right, who's next?
10.
10. 10 on my list here. Okay.
Hmm.
Chapter 2 Preamble. It seems my biography has surpassed a few people. Yes, indeed, Shar, this is actually a biography. But let's not be surprised. What could be more fun during a month when our identities are hidden than writing an autobiography? All of it on a male you don't know. You spend a lot of time thinking about how to amuse us, so it's only natural that I do the same, isn't it? I will therefore continue this little experiment. We were at the birth of my brother after that little leg problem of my mother. Do you remember? Thrombophlebitis. That's pleasant to pronounce, isn't it, Izzy? All right, let's go. We're getting trolled. The neighborhood. After the birth of my brother, we had to move to a new neighborhood on the outskirts of the city into an apartment slightly larger than our 2-room apartment at the Court of Miracles. An apartment on the 4th floor of a building. On the 2nd floor lived a family with 3 sons. We will call the L family. The gang leaders, repairers of two-wheelers, distributors distributors of all kinds of recreational products, and local small-time hoods with whom I quickly became acquainted. Being just slightly younger than them, I discovered a new life, the illegal side, and I mingled with settled Carney families, second generation of immigrants, poor boys and girls who together formed a perfectly American melting pot. Our afternoons filled with football matches, using the public benches and children's games as a field, and the various dramas available for our amazed eyes. The chases between the police and our elders, the fights, the love stories, or someone cheating on another with his best friend. And all the people from the neighborhood learned the news immediately and gave their opinions. People think that social networks invented this kind of situation. Believe me, in the 80s, we didn't need the internet. Our information was already circulating at the speed of sound through a most efficient system of mouth to ear communication. I spent as much time as possible outside, often taking my little brother with me to protect him because the house represented more danger than the outside. My father hadn't really adapted to this new life. He, who had had a lively life, was waiting for the days to pass without having any clear purpose other than to pass them one after the other, like a prisoner for life counting the days. He drank more and more, became harsher and harsher and dissatisfied, blaming the person in front of him for all his problems, constantly repeating the same denials without end. You're stupid. You don't know how to do anything. And constantly searching for reasons to explode and show his violence toward my mother, toward me, but not toward my brother, who was the only being who had finally found grace in his eyes. I had therefore become a brother, but having a father who was like a child, I found myself also having to play the role of a father, protecting and teaching everything I could to my brother, as much as I could at an age that was still quite young. We could spend entire days playing with a balloon and a piece of paper in tennis ball matches in our hallway, or the rules would evolve in such a way that each match was close enough for my brother, who was 9 years younger than me, not to be discouraged from playing. It also happened that I got tired of taking care of my brother, who, like all little brothers, had developed a visceral need to win something against me without understanding that with our age difference, it was too difficult for him. I remember a time when he was maybe 5 years old and I was 14, and he had spent a lot of time annoying me. I had asked him several times to stop, but at 5 years old, children are unstoppable. So I did something unthinkable. I opened the window wide, grabbed 4 or 5 of the stuffed animals he still slept with, and threw them out the window. Then I closed the window and shouted, "Dad, he threw his stuffed animals out the window." I waited for the expected reaction, looking him straight in the eyes. He was completely incredulous, and my father, transformed into a weapon of my petty revenge, fulfilled my vengeful prophecy. My father remained my closest enemy nonetheless, and most of the time I still carried the marks of his callous hands in my flesh. I spent my evenings pressing my ear against the wall, waiting for any noise showing a situation exploding between my father and my mother, and I most often fell asleep like that, unable not to feel responsible for the family's peace. Nikita Khrushchev. For the younger ones among you, you might not know who Nikita Khrushchev was. He was one of the politicians who took over from Stalin at the head of the USSR during the Cold War, and more particularly during the early years of the Detente, which nonetheless remained part of the Cold War. And you're going to ask me, but what connection does this have with this biography? Yes, sure, this is a biography, really. By the way, I hope you are here because otherwise this joke is going to fall completely flat. The connection is that Khrushchev, for reasons that go beyond the scope of this document, is also known for taking off his shoe and hitting his lectern with it in order to demand the attention of the audience. And one evening, while I was listening at the wall, falling asleep, a heated discussion was beginning to take shape between my father and my mother. The subject escaped me and was undoubtedly of no importance. But now, at 16 years old, and having grown under the weight of the multitude of hormones that spread during adolescence, I heard my father threaten my mother. And like Khrushchev, he had armed himself with a shoe, and more precisely with his heel, to threaten my mother in words that must have included expressions such as blow your head up or things of that sort. I couldn't let that happen. I had spent a good part of my life feeling that moment approaching. So I got up from my bed, wearing only a t shirt and shorts, armed with my emerging body hair and my hormones, and I burst into the room. I rushed toward my father, surprising him. I didn't utter a single word. I clenched my right fist and landed a magnificent hook directly in his jaw, pushing him several steps backward, stunned. Then, with the same hand, I pointed my finger at him and delivered a solemn warning, releasing 16 years of hatred all at once. If you touch her again, it'll be me who'll blow you up. I swear to you, I'll blow you up if you touch her. I remember little after that, except that he instantly sobered up, becoming peaceful and even shocked, and it was my mother who had to comfort him. I also remember my hand hurting, as well as my elbow. People don't often talk about these things, but the person who hits also gets hurt, sometimes even more than the one who receives the blow. From that day until his death, my father never again showed any violent gestures toward my mother in my presence. I had become, from then on, the only recipient of his violence and his hatred. I had just realized that I was now capable of enforcing a certain form of law, and even though I still tacitly accepted that he tried to exert authority over me or that he threatened me, I think he knew perfectly well that the balance of power had changed irrevocably. This story saddens me. I hate violence. I hate it being the last resort against bullies, and I hate the fact that it worked on my father to protect my mother. I deeply hate this world in which we are incapable of understanding that every human should have the best interest of every other human on earth at heart. I'm not going to talk to you about politics. That would be out of place and it wouldn't necessarily fit here on this stream. But you understood me, didn't you? Wink, wink. Who am I? A good title for this little subchapter. Who am I in this context is pure provocation. I know well, but at the same time, at this stage of my life, I was seriously starting to ask myself the question. I was arriving calmly and without obstacles at the end of my schooling, without any particular predispositions, as much in the scientific subjects that brought me a great pleasure because they satisfied my appetite for understanding the physical world, the energies, the universe in a broad sense, the stars, the galaxies, the black holes, or the infinitely small, the atoms and their taming by mankind, the electrons whose movement alone allowed modernity to be endowed with as many wonders as computers or machines, history that tells us the mistakes of the past not to repeat, or geography that mixed with the previous one sometimes explains events from a more reliable perspective, the languages that allow us to communicate with so many people on Earth with different views and enriching experiences. But literature interested me little at that point in my life. Oh, how I regret today my relative illiteracy of the past. I had no idea of what I wanted to do. I loved drawing. I loved art in general. I also loved video games, a pastime that deeply amazed me and regularly launched me into rages, no doubt partly inspired by my father, who had the merit of allowing me to release a bit of the pressure of not knowing at that point in my life who I wanted to become. My romantic life was non existent. I had no certainty about my own attractions, boys or girls. I had had crushes on many occasions, but I had never let the people involved know. I had absolutely no idea how to have a romantic relationship with someone. Friendship was also something complex for me, as it often is for people who grew up too quickly and who are too different. As a result, my imagined romances remained largely in my head. From an outside perspective, I was a calm, solitary, and discreet teenager. But let me warn you about calm, solitary, and discreet teenagers. What they have in their heads, if they're comparable to what I was, resembles more of a permanent nuclear explosion of smothered feelings, controlled impulses, unfulfilled desires, and unspoken thoughts. Never try to find out what they have in their heads. You won't be ready to hear it. As for me, I would only be capable of starting this life after gaining my independence. In the years that followed, to channel me, I started doing sports in a rather intense and varied way. First with a combat sport, Thai boxing, a charming little sport in the neighborhood gym run by a teacher who had spent time in Thailand and had just started a reintegration program for young people. I learned the basics of the sport and the fundamentals within a few months. only to eventually give it up when faced with the prospect of starting competitive fights, which didn't really appeal to me at all. I continued with something more classic and a team sport that would keep me occupied for a large part of my life: basketball. At that time, Houston had just won 2 consecutive championships following Michael Jordan's retirement, and I quickly became passionate about the sport, even starting to play it in teams and competitions, spending a good part of my weekends on the courts, and spending most of my holidays on the playground with my brother, who I also converted to the same sport. Having only sports and my studies to keep me occupied, I finally reached the end of my studies without really having a life plan in sight. So my only idea was to get through my final exams intact and then think about what came next. I remember my father had promised to beat me up if I didn't pass my final exams. And in his words, that wasn't a threat, but rather a promise. So I did just the strict minimum to pass them without tiring myself out, which was indeed the case. And I then discovered a relative freedom. Being the first in my family to finish school, apparently that was enough for my father, even though it by no means guaranteed a life, probably his way of expressing his pride. My mother had always encouraged me through wind and weather, but she was now worried about what I could become, whereas I was perfectly content with a life of video games and basketball and had little plans for my own future. It was then that I discovered my passion through an online computer game and for the internet, a passion that would largely condition my adult life and make me who I am. But that will be for another time. Because remember, there is a limit of 2,500 words, and although I try to be as short as possible, it seems I have quite a hard time writing below that amount without making drastic cuts in the budget that Reagan would undoubtedly have been proud of in his time. Oh, and by the way, that definitely explained more than I intended, but let's roll with that. Done, done, done. And can I say that I am completely uncomfortable? I am completely and unadulteratedly uncomfortable.
um, yeah, we're gonna take a minute here. Um, not wow, that was something. Will you two stop? I got two cats behind me fighting. Uh, I can hold my own. We all know that. Uh, we all just kind of need a minute. So how's everybody doing in the chat? How are we liking? By the way, this is your reminder if you use your Prime subscription and you've been on this since the beginning. Now is the time to re-up your Prime subscription for the month, so you don't have to deal with those pesky little ads. And it's also what helps keep our newsletter going and other things at this particular time of moment. Which submitters have been read out? Hold on one second. We have read out 14, 9, 8, and 10 so far tonight. And we still have 4, 7, 6, and 18 left. And we're doing this on the wheel, so it's like completely randomized. It's completely go with that. Also, to let you guys know that you can go over into the Fresh Ink channel on our Discord and put in what you believe is your yes, that's correct, Luna. Yeah, your best guess. Yeah, give us your best guess over in that channel. Gotta love it when I'm trying to spell. I spent all day trying to figure out how to spell certain words. I'm like, See, that is one thing. I'm glad people like it, but I can't understand the appeal of hot tuna.
It's the only way I can eat tuna.
See, a lot of people are like that. That the only way they can eat it is hot, and I'm like, no, cold with mayonnaise and possibly some peas and pickles in it, and mix it together and put it on a cracker, that or sandwich bread, like tuna sandwich, tuna on crackers. See, we're two sides of very different coins. And see, some people are like that. Raw tuna, especially if you like now there's certain things that I do like. I like salmon, but I like salmon patties. I really never had filet salmon prepared correctly, and I understand that. I have something behind me I need to go take care of real quick. So I will be right back.
I don't even know what y'all are talking about, but I think I have just one too many times heard of bad seafood making people sick, and I do not intend on risking food poisoning, so I make sure that everything is fixed. Also, or completely cooked. Also, fun fact, um, I had to yell at various roommates over the years, don't give Tigger tuna. Tigger was a kitten that Kesh picked up at 5 weeks old at an Easter thing on the other side of the state, um, accidentally. Tigger at 5 weeks old crawled up into her family's car, and they did not notice him until they were about halfway home. So she dropped him on me and my boyfriend at the time and go, look what I brought home. And years later, he was getting beat up by her other two cats. And she goes, can you take him? And everybody kept giving Tigger tuna, and he got sick every single time. Cat allergic to tuna. Anytime I got him kibble or wet food that had tuna in it, got sick all over everything. So, of course, my life is surrounded by cats and humans that always have that one thing that makes them not normal. I'm okay with that. I'll put it this way, Leon. I'm fine. All right, Julie, who's up next?
Okie dokie. Spin the wheel. Submitter 4.
All right. The Borrowed Grief. As they took in the scene from the penthouse, they saw the city lights go out block by block. From 47 stories up, it looked almost graceful, like a tide retreating, like a constellation dimming in sequence. Neighborhoods vanished into shadows, one after another, the darkness swallowing streets, towers, bridges. But inside Eli Mercer, it was anything but graceful. The first wave hit his chest like a dropped weight. Fear, raw and animal, surged through him. Not his own, never his own. Belonged to thousands of people at once. Parents fumbling for flashlights, commuters trapped underground, elderly residents clutching phones that no longer worked. The fear rushed into him, unfiltered, unasked for, and Eli staggered back from the glass. He pressed a hand to the window to steady himself. The city kept going dark. Easy, he whispered to no one. Eli had learned early that breathing helped, even if it didn't fix anything. He counted 4 in, 6 out, as the emotions piled up inside him like wreckage. Fear blended into confusion. Confusion curdled into anger. Anger simmered into despair. And then grief. It was different from the rest. Sharper, personal, not the wide, anonymous sorrow of a crowd, but a precise ache, like a knife sliding between ribs. Eli gasped as it tore through him, dragging something familiar in its wake. No, he thought, not that. He knew grief. He lived with borrowed grief every day. But this was old. This was deep. This was the kind that never healed, only learned how to stay quiet. His knees buckled and he sank onto the polished floor, city lights flickering weakly behind him. Tears burned his eyes, hot and humiliating, and he didn't know whose they were. Someone below was mourning a child. No, children, plural. Eli clutched his chest, heart racing as images bled into his mind without permission. A school hallway, lockers painted blue and white, a banner that read, "Go Tigers," a sound like thunder indoors, screams folding in on themselves. His breath hitched. No, he whispered again, but the emotion didn't care. This grief wasn't new. It was years old. Buried. The city lost another block of light. Eli Mercer had once believed his ability was a gift. That was before he understood what it cost. He didn't read minds. He didn't see memories. Not exactly. He experienced emotion the way others experienced weather. Walk into a room and he felt the emotional climate, tension hanging heavy like humidity, joy crackling like static, sorrow settling in his bones like winter cold. At first, it had been manageable, useful even. He'd built a career on it, consulting, private investigations, quiet contracts with people who wanted truth without lies. Emotions didn't lie, not the deep ones, but grief lingered. Grief stuck. Every borrowed sorrow left residue behind, little fractures inside him that never quite mended. Over time, those fractures had multiplied until Eli felt like a man held together by borrowed feelings and stubbornness alone. That was why he lived in a penthouse. Distance helped. Height helped. Up here, the city's emotions softened into a dull hum most days, background noise he could tune out. He paid obscene rent for the luxury of emotional quiet. Tonight, that quiet was gone. The blackout rolled onward, block by block, and with it came the truth the city had buried. Eli dragged himself to his feet, wiping his face with the heel of his hand. He crossed the living room, past minimalist furniture chosen more for emptiness than style, and grabbed his jacket. Whatever this grief was, it had a source, and sources meant answers. The elevator was dead. Eli took the stairs, descending 47 floors while the building echoed with distant voices and nervous laughter. Each step closer to the street sharpened the emotional signal. Fear still dominated, but the grief threaded through it like a dark vein guiding him. Outside, the city felt wounded. Police cruisers crawled through intersections. Emergency lights painted the streets red and blue. People clustered together, sharing flashlights, candles, whispered rumors. Eli walked against the current, following the pull in his chest. It led him east, toward the old school district. The grief grew heavier with every block. By the time he reached Jefferson Middle School, his legs were trembling. The building loomed dark and familiar, brick walls rising like a memory no one wanted to touch. Eli stopped across the street, breath catching. This explains more than you intended, he murmured, the words slipping out before he realized he'd spoken them out loud. Someone stood beside him. You feel it too. Eli flinched and turned. A woman stood there, late 40s maybe, her face drawn, eyes red rimmed but steady. A city badge hung from her neck, catching the light of a passing cruiser. Detective Laura Bennett, she said. And no, I don't feel it like you do. But I remember. Eli's stomach dropped. Remember what? She looked at the school. What happened here 10 years ago? The official story had been an accident, a gas line malfunction, an explosion after hours. 2 custodians killed. Tragic, unavoidable. Eli had believed it. Everyone had. But the grief pouring out of this place didn't belong to custodians. It belonged to parents, to children, to a town that had agreed, collectively, desperately, to forget. Laura led him inside with a flashlight and a key that still worked. The halls smelled of dust and old disinfectant. Eli's chest tightened as echoes of emotion brushed against him, faint but persistent, like fingerprints on glass. It was during summer school, Laura said quietly. 27 kids, 2 teachers, locked in a science wing when the fire started. Eli staggered, bracing himself against a locker. That many? His voice broke. Why? Why doesn't anyone? Because the city couldn't survive it, she said. The lawsuits, the blame, the truth. Eli felt anger spike through him, sharp, borrowed, righteous. So you lied. We survived, she corrected. Barely. They reached a classroom at the end of the hall. The door hung crooked, warped by heat long ago. Eli couldn't step inside. The grief was overwhelming now, a tidal wave crashing through him. They're still here, he whispered. Laura nodded. That's why the blackout matters. She explained quickly. The city council had commissioned a redevelopment project, rewiring the grid and modernizing infrastructure. What they hadn't advertised was the secondary goal, emotional suppression. They mapped emotional hotspots, Laura said, places where trauma never healed. They thought if they cut power, cut stimulation, the emotional echoes would finally die. Eli laughed, hollow and sharp. You can't turn off grief with a switch. No, she said, but they tried anyway. And you let them. Her jaw tightened. I stopped them once. The grief flared. Her grief now, personal and fierce. My son was in this school, she said. He survived. Barely. I spent years trying to make it right. Eli turned to her, heart pounding. Then why do I feel new grief? Laura swallowed. Because tonight, the system overloaded. The blackout wasn't erasing grief, it was releasing it. The city unraveled fast. As power failed, emotional pressure snapped. Riots ignited where old wounds festered. Vigils erupted where loss had never been acknowledged. Hospitals overflowed, not with injuries, but with people collapsing under the sudden weight of feelings they'd suppressed for years. Eli tried to help. That was his failure. He moved through shelters and hospitals, absorbing grief, fear, rage, taking it into him the way he always had, believing he could lighten the load. He pushed past his limits, drowning in emotion until he could barely tell where he ended and others began. Stop, Laura begged him at one point, gripping his arm as he swayed on his feet. You can't save everyone. I could try, he slurred. He didn't see the woman behind him until it was too late. She collapsed hard after he passed, her sobs turning into silence. A nurse shouted. Alarms rang. Eli stared, numb, as they worked on her. She needed that grief, the nurse snapped later. You took it. She had nothing left to hold her together. The words landed like a verdict. Eli had always believed absorbing pain was kindness. Tonight it killed someone. By dawn, the city's power returned. The grief didn't vanish. It settled. Eli sat on the penthouse floor again, wrapped in a blanket he didn't remember grabbing. City lights flickering weakly back to life outside the window. He felt hollowed out, scraped raw. Laura stood near the glass, phone pressed to her ear, issuing quiet orders. When she hung up, she looked at him. The truth's coming out, she said. Everything. The school, the cover up, all of it. Eli nodded numbly. You won't be thanked, she added. People will blame you. I know. Silence stretched between them. Will you leave? She asked. Eli thought of the woman in the hospital, of the grief he'd stolen and the life it had cost, of the echo still lodged inside him, heavier now than ever. No, he said quietly. I'll stay. Why? He looked out at the city, at the lights cold never fully that could never fully hide the darkness beneath them. Because someone has to feel it, he said. And remember. Laura nodded once and left. Eli remained where he was, alone with a city's worth of sorrow pressed into his bones. The borrowed grief would never leave him, and that was the price he would live with. Dun, dun, dun.
What?
Y'all just letting all your trauma out, ain't you?
Letting
All
it out with no.
y'all are just letting all the trauma, all the grief, all the pain, all the suffering out.
It has to be broken. Welcome to the therapy club. Hydrate to hydrate.
This can of Dr. Pepper isn't hard enough.
Yeah, on Saturday nights we had a little extra. All right, we got 3 left here. Do we have anything that you want to say there before we spin the next one, or just go ahead and spin?
I I got I got nothing. I'm thinking too many people are taking hashtag break Izzy way too seriously.
Yeah,
I mean, I get it. Y'all need to get it out. You need to get it out of your system. But
it doesn't have to be submitted every week.
yeah. You're killing me,
Okay,
Smalls. You're killing me. Killing me.
Smitter 6. So I would like to say that I really like the wheel. I think we will keep the wheel.
As Garrett and I took in the reddish hues of the sunrise from the penthouse, we saw the lights for the bars on the beach blink out building by building. The fire of each torch winked out as someone walked along the dunes, extinguishing them. Everything was beautiful and perfect. If he hadn't been holding me so tightly with his chest on my back, I would have sworn I was in a dream. His touch kept my head out of the stars. His arms kept my feet on the ground. His breath on the back of my neck and the things he would do to my body kept me returning to him, time and time again. I couldn't resist the pull his attention cast over me. We went back to bed, making love with the light of dawn filtering through the windows. The colors cast by the first of the twin suns were a reflection of the passion we created when we were together. Later in the morning, we decided to go to the lobby and venture out into the culinary district of the nearby town. The taxi we found was driven by a four-armed alien from a species I wasn't familiar with. Garrett evidently had interacted with others like him, their conversation being in the driver's native language. After we were dropped off, he told me that he had done a 6-month tour on the man's planet and still had the language programmed into his cranial implant. Handy, I replied, smiling up at him as we walked along the district's promenade, holding hands. We stopped outside a restaurant that was very strongly inspired by the old earth country of Japan, mixed with several cultures from other planets that had independently come to similar aesthetic choices. It made for a wonderful night's experience. After eating, we continued to walk the main pathway that led to the entertainment district, hoping to catch a hollow movie or even find a barcade where we could play VR games and have a few drinks. We had no plan other than to enjoy each other's company while we could. The day went by in a blur until we finally ended up back in our suite in the billets. We made love. We sat on the couch located on the wall of the room, talking and watching as the virtual fire popped and crackled, sipping from the bottle of Drulian ale he had purchased at one of the small souvenir stalls that dotted the center of the town. We made love by the fire and then continued our conversation into the deep hours of the night. I finally fell asleep in his arms as the first sun began to peek over the horizon, lighting up the room with its warm glow. By the Holy Empress! I swore as I sat up, bumping the back of my helmet on the underside of nav control. I heard O2 chuckle, the flat tone of the voice synth turning it into a ha rather than a ha ha. They were starting to get on my nerves. standing back and not being of any assistance other than offering an occasional underhanded, unhelpful comment or two. How about you just go take a walk out the airlock and suck vacuum? I finally snapped, some static filled feedback filling the internal speakers next to my ears. I then emphasized my irritation with my body, the stress of our situation making the working relationship less than functional. They were lucky that Harriet made us surrender our bolt blasters when we returned from our sortie. I would have made the already tense situation much, much worse than when I had punched the bulkhead earlier in the ship day. All I see is you running back and forth between the engineering deck and navigation, but I don't see any results. Why haven't we moved? They finally vocalized their frustration. What I was afraid to tell them was that we were in a no win situation. We could either turn off the navigation systems and subspace engines and allow ourselves to fall into the black hole, or we could maintain our pace until we ran out of fuel and were sucked in. What I couldn't understand was where we were. The void currently trying to spaghettify us was about 10 times larger than the primordial black hole I had been trying to slingshot us around to get us home to the Starlight Empire. Due to the occultation of the light surrounding the event horizon, Harriet couldn't get a fix on stars to plot out where we had ended up. Something had gone seriously wrong. To add to that, O2's comments were as irritating as Kovaxian fleas. I was losing my concentration and piling more mistakes on top of all the others. We were already dead. I just hadn't told them yet. Tell me what to do. I'll help. They had finally stopped bickering with me and offered to do something constructive. You can download the running schematics for the nav station and run the course plots while I try to get the subspace engine back up and running. That way we can get our asses back to base, get our debriefings, and return to our normal lives. I ordered them as I stomped off the bridge level and into the corridor connecting to the rest of the ship. 1-4, you are lying to O2 about the direness of the situation. Why? Harriet's voice came in on the private frequency in my comm unit. Damage control was all I could say. 1-4, it is unethical and against the Imperial Charter to withhold information from your comrade. She was trying to play on my conscience. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to feel bad. I felt my suit send more calming impulses, triggering my nervous system to start making hormones to circulate through my body. I felt my muscles relax and my jaw unclench. Then a wave of exhaustion moved through me. I fell to my knees, my vision becoming blurred as I felt my body go fully limp. O2, assistance is needed in the main corridor. 1-4 is down. The last thing I remember The last thing I remember seeing was O2 leaning over me. The only thing on my mind before I passed out was Garrett and our last night together on shore leave. I just wanted to be in his arms again. Okay, so 1-4 is cyan. The back chicken went. Okay, I'm putting 2 to 2 together now. Ooh, I heard the door open as he stepped into the suite, the panels twisting closed. I had stayed behind, laying in bed, waiting for him to come back with whatever surprise he left to get. I rolled on my back and stretched, the blankets falling off my bare breasts. He looked down as he stood over me on the side of the bed, a broad smile on his face. Cyan, I am luckier than any of the Empress's consorts. Garrett climbed into bed and straddled me, the blankets between our bodies. You always know what to say, don't you? I wrapped my arms around his neck, pulling him on top of me. I just interpret the song my heart sings for you. I just ate. Ugh. Garrett started to nibble on my ear. The waves of endorphins that surged through my body making me sigh. Smooth talk like that gets you everything you want, was all I managed to say before he leaned in to kiss me. We made love. Later, after we were done, he jumped out of bed to search for something in the clothes he'd been wearing when he had returned. I have two surprises, he said as he walked back to the bed while pulling his briefs on. Whatever could you have? I looked at him as seductively as I could, reaching out for him as he sat on the edge of the bed next to me. First, he began, I went to the shuttle station and contacted the battalion CO, had a little talk with him about how close to the end of our tours we were. I noticed that he had something in both of his hands. He then opened one of them, producing two data chits with our names and Imperial service numbers embossed across the plastic casing. I'm less than 6 standard months from being able to drop out. But why didn't you tell me you had extended? You could drop now if you wanted. Why not go home? I looked at his other hand, which was still hiding something. I think you know the answer to that question. I smirked, taking the hand that held the data chits into mine and pulling him closer. But you could be safe back home in the central part of the Empire. With your engineering talent, you could qualify to join the Engineer Corps or even get a soft position taking care of the Imperial cruisers for the Empress. He seemed pained that I had chosen to extend my tour for him. Wouldn't be close to you. I wouldn't be able to be here in this room with you if I hadn't re enlisted, I explained, sitting up to look him directly in the eyes. I love you, Cyan. He touched his forehead to mine, lifting his other hand and opening it, revealing a small box. He took my hand and placed it in mine, watching me as I opened it. Dermal rings? Garrett, that's got to be more salary than you make in a standard year, I gasped, caught off guard by what the implication behind the gift was. I want to know you're okay. I want you to know when I think of you. He took the box out of my hand. I set an installation appointment up for this evening and made reservations at Tremere Fusion Place not too far from the jeweler. I pulled back from him a little as he spoke. I was starting to feel a little overwhelmed by everything. Garrett, are you sure? I asked him, my heart starting to beat double time. I wouldn't be here with these if I wasn't. He indicated the dermal rings. I. Okay. I want to. Yes, I will, I replied to him, making him smile. He leaned in, holding me. I wrapped my arms around him, returning the embrace and laying my head on his shoulder. We just sat there, holding each other. I sat in my quarters, my helmet and gauntlets off. I needed air that wasn't the recycled stuff from my power suit, and this was the only safe place for me to remove it. I looked on the wall of my bunk and the picture of Garrett and me exchanging our vows after having the dermal rings implanted during our last shore leave. Only the tech at the installation stall and our two closest friends in the Corps knew currently. It wasn't out of the ordinary for two members of the Imperial Marines to elope while on leave. There would also be some notes in our profiles, but they wouldn't pop up unless something happened to one of us. I then looked at the back of my ring finger on the back of my left hand. The ring was blinking. Garrett was thinking about me wherever he was. I was exhausted and just wanted to lay down, but I needed to get down to engineering. I pulled my gauntlets back on and placed my helmet back over my head. I locked the collar and left the room, running as fast as I could to the next level down where engineering was located. I walked through the portal and into the bay where the main engine was, looking at the slot where the flux capacitor had shorted and caught fire. The smoke damage to the room wasn't as bad as it could be, but it was still interfering with the functioning of the subspace engine. I had to figure out how to clean some of the electrical soot from the secondary drive without turning it off. Easier said than done. I pulled on a lever to the side, lifting the safety grate from the front, allowing me to look in and see how far the carbonized grit had gotten into the mechanisms. Even with the power suit, I could feel the heat radiating off the surface of the machine. I sighed and prayed to the Empress that I didn't injure myself. I reached in with the bristled brush, wishing it had a slightly longer handle. I started to scrub, carefully trying to avoid the hottest portions as I scrubbed between parts. I took care to not disturb any of the wiring. Any interruption in the engine running would cause us to start being pulled into the event horizon. I moved carefully onto the area around the matter condenser, probably the most delicate part of what I was attempting. That was when the vibration on my left hand started. I froze, not wanting to accidentally bump anything with my ring hand. Slowly, I drew my hand back and out of the cage, trying to time it out to go between each of the vibrations in the pattern. It was telling me that Garrett was close and he was thinking of me. Damn dermal ring is malfunctioning, I huffed under my breath. Garrett couldn't be anywhere near me. I got my hand away from the engine, the thrumming of the condenser steady, almost in time with the vibrations of my ring. I closed the grate back over the drive, hoping that what little I had been able to clean in the condenser area would be enough to get the apparatus to do its job. I ran up to the bridge, the ring still acting up. The resonance moved through the metal of my gauntlet and up the gauntlet covering my arm. I felt like it was making a lot of noise. I just hoped that O2 didn't notice. It would be an awkward conversation to have in the situation we were in. I turned the corner, almost running into the other GRUNT. We both stopped, looking looking at each other, my ring seemingly louder and echoing now. That's when I realized it. That's when I figured out that my ring wasn't echoing. I figured out quickly that O2's left hand was also vibrating like mine, in the same pattern. They looked down at their hand, then at me, and then back at their hand. Well, that reveals more than we intended about each other, he said, as he dropped his helmet to the deck. I gasped. Dun dun dun.
What the fuck? I mean, I had suspicions. I'm not gonna lie. I had suspicions. Starbucks is just catching up.
Holy hell.
Well, I guess we just gotta hope that they finish it on Saturday night.
I I was about to be completely uncomfortable in a completely different way than earlier, and I'm very glad that there wasn't more detail in that. I just saying. Night, Doc. Um, Ace, you have returned to the entire prompter crew throwing Izzy and Julie on a roller coaster of motherfucking epic proportions. And we haven't decided who's getting wiffle ball batted and why. I mean, at this point, everybody's getting wiffle ball batted.
They get a bat. They get a bat. They get a bat. Everybody gets a fucking bat.
Everybody gets a fucking bat.
It's kind of like Oprah here. You get a bat.
Just call
You
us
get a bat.
Oprah.
You get a bat. You get two bats. You get one
Oh.
forward and backward. Uh, okay,
Oh.
here we go.
Oh.
No, the bats don't have COVID.
Wiffle ball bats.
Wrong kind of bat there. All right. Submitter 7.
Okay. Suddenly, the entire room exploded in action and yelling, leaders delegating search parties and members radioing in their teammates. Selena went to run off with the rest of the crowd when Noah pulled her to a stop. Her gaze sharpened on his grizzly sized hand. Can I help you? Selena attempted a polite tone while secretly wanting to chew out the guy from coming between her and a good chase. He steadily stared her down without a word. You know, with your size and build, I'm not surprised you aren't from the Bear Clan. Selena pulled her wrist against his grip and he let go. She quirked an eyebrow. Not even a dirty joke slipped in? Man, you're no fun. My dad was supposed to be at the meeting. He felt a bit uneasy, but wasn't going to let a bit of animal instinct stop him from talking things out. By talking things out, that meant likely convincing the council to accept Noah as the new leader of the pack. She had heard all the juicy gossip through the grapevine that leader Sebastian was looking to retire into a cozy councilman position waiting for him. When he abdicated his position, he would lose his abilities to save for the new leader. Selena didn't get all the science behind it, but apparently leaders were given a boost when taking their positions from the previous leader, allowing them to be strong and powerful. All she knew was imagining herself when she would have to give up her position made her skin crawl. Saggy skin, fragile bones, normal vision. How human. You think he succeeded in his talk? Selena slowly perused Noah's body. Obviously he did, Marie cut in, her voice pitched high. Selena paid close attention to his shoulders in her perusal. I should probably get back to the search, Bernard. She made it to opening the door when an arrow was slammed into it. The black cloaked figure sprinting down the hall before disappearing. Noah attempted to chase the figure but stopped when he got to the turn. They're gone. Selena picked up the paper pinned to the door. Leader Sebastian Steele has paid for his crimes with his life. All those who oppose the king shall receive their final judgment death. Signed, the king's humble servant. Noah's expression went grim with the news, his knuckles white at the sight of the note. We must find the councilman. Noah turned around and guided them to Councilman Elijah's office. Selena entered behind Noah and then shut the door in Marie's face, much to her protest. Noah strode across the room and presented the note to the withered looking man. What's this, Noah? Councilman Elijah asked from where he had been running his comm center. It mentions my father. Elijah read over the note, the news darkening his expression as well. We'll run further tests on this piece of paper, but there's a good chance it's what it claims. With that being said, you have been automatically approved as leader. A certificate of your appointment will come by email within a week. A funeral will have to be arranged. But until then, you should grieve with your loved ones. Elijah peeked at Selena before returning to meet Noah's gaze. Then a bang and shouting from the other side of the office door startled the three shifters. That might have explained too much, Selena muttered. Dun, dun, dun.
Do what? No, 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 no. You must be mistaken. There must be more.
No, there is no more. There is no more, and I am so thoroughly confused. Like entire portions were missing between beats or something. I mean, rough drafts, we've always said rough drafts, but like it feels like there is massive amounts of context missing. And
On purpose.
not just on purpose, but like I, I don't know. It
Even the audience is like, you got to be kidding me.
I don't know. I mean, Selena is obviously quite young and immature because in the middle of assassination, she's cracking sexual jokes about this guy. Like,
Yeah, I'm with Starvos here. Selena feels very, very casual,
wait,
like too casual.
too casual. Uh, 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 I at this current point in what has been revealed about Selena, between this week's and last week's, I would not. I don't think she has the cunning to have been a part of this assassination plot in the
No,
story for those kinds of, people who are coming across this later. Um, I don't know. I just I mean, this is probably a portion of the story that is probably missing about 1,000 or 1,250 in words that'll be
right.
fleshed out and the beats more. But I am so thoroughly confused.
You're not the only one. Okie dokie. Our last submitter for tonight, number 18.
I'm so confused. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Everything's fine. No, it's not.
It's fine. Okay. Ready, Freddy. Yes, Leon. A new one. A new submitter for our lovely fresh ink challenge. I mean, like I said, it took all the way until late in the year to get to 21 different submitters. And we're only 2 weeks in, and y'all have got us up to 18.
Right.
Okay. Entitled Amiss. Would you worry if your best friend was suddenly acting differently? For the past week, Ian Calloway kept a keen eye on his shy friend, Samael Pembroke, who recently became fond of Miss Eleanor Greystone, a stubborn, free spirit who could make a wildflower field her home. She relished the sun caressing her face. Samael, however, enjoyed the scent of books in a library. Ian supposed opposites attract, but Miss Greystone compared Samael to, ah, yes, drywall. Are you still on about that? the brunette asked. They strolled through a shrubbery beyond Main Street. He caught a glimpse of construction work on a roof, past the shrubs, over some hedges. It was a shame what happened to the worker's son. He was around their age. Before the man could get a glimpse of the workers' faces, the trees imposed themselves. A crisp wind cradled auburn leaves. Still, the man and lady pressed on. I was never aware we were off it, he countered. He looked back to their little path, then stepped over a snail to spare the lady her tears. He would never hear the end if Sam discovered that his dearest Elle cried. Ian restrained his eyes from rolling. The woman lifted her chin in a matter-of-fact way. I was wrong, she said stiffly, as if she might grow ill by saying such a statement. That explains more than you intended, Miss Grayson. What? I simply stated I was wrong. Ian had to stare at her when it was uttered again. It made him unaware of the gopher hole he was about to trip over, causing Miss Greystone to haw out a laugh. The earthy scent of dirt traveled right through his nose, and he coughed. Someone call the newsboy. Miss Grayson admitted to being wrong, he croaked. Then he paused under a realization. You admitted you were wrong. What are you hiding, Miss Greystone? She turned up her nose and continued without waiting for his recovery. He stumbled behind her and joined her side once more. Well? A lady does not hide things, Mr. Calloway. He pressed his lips into a hard line. That did not sound right. He said, You said lady etiquette was complete rubbish yesterday. Miss Greystone turned on her boot to face him. She barely a few inches shorter than Sam, but fiercer than either of the two men. It caught Ian off guard. I grow weary, Mr. Calloway. Take me home. Do you grow weary of my questions, Miss Greystone? He retorted. I simply grow weary, Mr. Calloway. It is hours before sunset, and the days are growing shorter. That is unlike you. Do you live to vex me, Mr. Calloway? I only vex when I am concerned for my friend. Sam? She asked. That! He pointed to her, but she swatted his hand away. He shook his hand from the impact. She knew how to sting like a bee. Those, oh, Sam this, and oh, Elle that. What has changed in such a short time? You do fear change, do you not, Mr. Calloway? He rolled his eyes, far too deep in the chase to care about formalities. Tell me what has gone amiss, Eleanor. She pursed her lips before holding out her pinky. He laughed without mirth. Are you a child? Pinky promises are sacred. He wiped his face. If all it took was a childish gesture to get her to talk. The man stuck out his finger and curled it around hers. Miss Greystone's stare lingered, as though she was piercing into his soul, as if such a thing were even plausible. Their pinkies parted. She started with, There was an accident. Ian quirked a brow. The roof falling? The very one. What does that have to do with Sam? He was at the chapel. Lloyd Thatcher was at the chapel. Samael was under the roof.
No! Not again!
Dun, dun, dun. Uh, uh, uh. Oh,
I'm sorry. Something just popped
Luna.
across my screen. But what? What is it with people either shutting us down or making us want to like cry. Like,
Uh,
remember, everybody, you can go right over to the Fresh Ink channel in the Discord. If you're not part of the Discord, why the fuck not? It's free. And I only add you once a week. Sometimes twice. It all depends on what we got going on. But I try to keep it down to a minimum. We don't spam you. We don't do anything. If you need a community, guess what? That's where you find us. Monday, 9 times out of 10, Monday through Friday, around 7 o'clock in the morning for me, till the wee hours of the freaking morning, because I'm an insomniac that can't sleep because of a kid that can't sleep. So in the process, there we are. Most of the time, Izzy's on to at least 10 o'clock Eastern time. Been known to go a little bit later. We're trying to get her in bed on time. Uh, so she can get up doing the grown-up things. But you've got me, you've got Cash, you've got Izzy, you've got Bitzer. Occasionally Leon jumps in there, I think mostly to antagonize us and get into a meme war where I have to throw up Harlequin and tell them to go to their separate corners, or I'm bringing out the bat. Either which way, this is where we're at.
and I threaten with Dean to blow it all up.
Right. We blew it all up.
And for the record, apparently it's not working. However, I took a piece of paper and I wrote 2026 on it. I stuck it on the counter, and if you know, you know, I circled it with salt. And then, to protect it from the terrorists that are known as my 7 cats in this house, I put the cover that usually goes in the microwave to protect the food from splattering everywhere. I stuck it over top of the salt, and then I duct tape that motherfucker down onto the counter for a full 24 hours. I meant to protect 2026, but no! No. Yup. No.
We're not even, let's put it this way. We're not even a good 2 weeks in. 2 weeks tomorrow. Tomorrow makes the first 2 weeks of the month. We're not even a good 2 weeks in yet. I've already fallen down and fallen through my front stairs. I've already fallen through a hole in my floor that I had to repair. Like, what the hell? Izzy's poor washers exploded. And I've tried to help, fix that. Did not work, but we found out that that damn thing is probably older than at least one of the kids. So I say we all, if you believe, you believe, but everybody needs to do the ritual, and we will protect it. Please put Hold My Pen Promptcast underneath that, so we kind of, keep everybody good. Yes, I'm fine, Luna. Now, mind you, I do have what is going to be a massive bruise down the back of my thigh, but it's going to be fine. Nothing I'm not used to.
I said I was fine earlier. Yeah, no, pretense is gone. I'm not fine. I am not fine. Yo, I'm not.
I was trying to be nice and just say we're fine. Everything's fine. The world's on fire, but it was on fire yesterday, and it was on fire last week, and it's going to continue to be on fire for a while. It's just like, we're fine.
I'm not fine. I'm not fine. I am so not fine.
Personally, I'd like to go back to early 2000s. I want to go back to the early 2000s with the knowledge I have now.
No, because the early 2000s, I spent damn near 6 years pregnant and dealing with babies. No.
But if you got to go now, but if you got to go back with with the knowledge that you have now,
I hate to break it to my children, but they wouldn't exist.
I think they'd still exist. They just might.
Oh no, you're fine, Luna. I'm an open book. Here's the thing. I have my emotions, but for the purposes of the show, I ratchet the physical reactions up on the emotions that are already there. So I over dramatize myself. If I didn't have such horrible stage fright being on a physical stage, um, that would have been a comedian or an actress or some, theater kid.
And here's the thing,
Um,
I I actually don't have stage fright. I don't. I have the I don't want to necessarily do it by myself. I mean, if I got somebody, at least somebody in the audience or somebody laughing or cutting up with me, yeah, it makes it a little bit better. But I can get out there on the fucking stage and do it with the best of them. But I think that's where me and you complement each other.
mhm.
You have your stage right, and you're good right here in public. I don't have the fucking stage right, but I do need somebody standing behind me telling me it's gonna be okay. So when we're
I,
done, I can go have my iced coffee and be left alone for 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, I totally get that, Doc. So in any event, y'all just like, mm, you know what? I do want to say that this most recent submission, the last one for week 2, I think is the first time that we have bordered on a Regency or Regency adjacent time period. And it was actually quite refreshing. Like we do fantasy fake worlds, we do modern times, we do historical, um various
But no,
different
but you're
historical.
right. I don't think we've ever had
We've
one that was just straight up Regency. We've either gone like way back in the medieval,
yes.
nothing nothing within like the Queen Charlotte William the Third, which is what I'm getting vibe wise off of this.
Right. And like somebody Luna I think said getting those
Pride and Prejudice.
Darcy and Lizzie Bennett vibes. And can we just leave me out of it? Thank you very much. But um uh, whoo, doggy. Um I enjoy the movies. I don't like Jane Austen's writing. This I liked. This I liked. This I want more of because it's got that little bit of the pretense and again it might not be Regency. It might, but it has that Jane Austen era without the Jane Austen dryness.
Right. Well, there's like even certain things like everybody loves Bridgerton, and guess what? I like Bridgerton too. I really do. But I've tried. Okay, I got through the first 2 seasons, and it was kind of like Harry Potter. I After I had gotten through the first 2 movies, I'm like, I'm not going to watch any more of the movies until I get through the books because I need to know what I'm looking for, like the differences
Oh,
and stuff like that. I'm that type of person that I need to know what I'm looking for, similarity and differency wise. And I tried to get through the first 2 books of the Bridgerton series, and I couldn't do it. I tried. I gave it the old college try. They are on audio, and I don't. And I will be the first one to tell you a narrator will make or break that fucking book. The wrong
yeah.
narrator with the wrong type of voice and everything like that for content can make or break it. And
Mhm.
I didn't like the narrator. They were too breathy, and I just couldn't do it. So even though I said I was not going to watch any more of the seasons until I got through the books, it looks like I'm just going to finish watching the seasons, and then I will buy the books and see
There
if I can get through them that way.
there are more instances than I think we realize where sometimes, especially if it's a modern written item where sometimes the movie or television show is better than the books. Sometimes.
Right.
It's rare. 9 times out
It,
of 10, we say the book was better, right? Yes, I would agree with you, Sticks. There's a lot of instances where the narrator needs to be a proper English gentleman. And I would even hazard to say this one too. And why does my camera keep blurring? Whatever.
I think it's because it's
Um,
catching the light off your glasses, and it makes
it's
it look like you're
possible.
moving, and you're
Possible.
not.
Well, I'm self-soothing with the back and forth rocking, but yes, completely hard agree. Hard agree. Stick says, and there are some books that should never see screen time, but unfortunately they get popular for the wrong reasons, and here we go. Absolutely could not agree more.
Right. No, I'm totally with you on that. And then there are some that are out there that are not getting enough love.
Yes, 100%.
They're not getting the recognition and everything like that because they are not your typical.
They're not fluff.
They're not fluff or they're not complete smut. They actually
No.
have a freaking story and they're telling the story.
Yep.
Um, and you have the character development. You have all the.
I'm ignoring that comment. I'm
So my.
ignoring it. That does not
Yep. Nope.
exist in my
That,
world.
that's loaded, and I'm not loading it.
So here's to make a long story short, because we've got 8 minutes to the top of the hour. Um, that's what I feel like we're doing here, right? Giving people the opportunity to develop a story, look at their shit critically, take that feedback, hear other people's writing, and go, "Oh, I like how they did that with that sentence structure, or that dialogue piece, or that era, or that topic," and we're encouraging one another. Um, and it always takes us back to our own writing going, okay, what can I do with this to make it more interesting or grab the reader, or where is my grammar needing work or whatnot. And we're more than welcome, more than happy to even help you with all of that. I cannot think of a better plot hole finder than Julie DeFisher. The number of times I have thrown stuff at her and go, I feel like I'm missing something. And she's like, well, you forgot this. And I'm like, shit, you're right.
And
And
and a lot of people come to me, especially when they're not they're not ready for an editor. They think they're ready for an editor, but they're not ready for an editor. What they need is a dev editor. And
mm-hmm.
what a dev editor is developmental. And I go through and I literally pick it the fuck apart, piece by piece, character by character. And the amount of times that I have had published work in front of my face doing other projects and gone with, we have a serious problem. And I've gone back to the author going, how did nobody catch us? How many? They had 3 different editors on this project. And it took me, who was
Years
doing something
later,
different, years later, going, we have a problem because you got a floating character. Now you have a hole in your world. And I'm not talking about like a pinhole. I'm talking about a hole as big as the fucking ozone layer. And they're like, no, we don't. And I sit there and pointed it out from one book to the other. And they were like, oh shit, yeah, we do. And I'm like, yeah, you do. And while they tried in later books to recoup that and go back through it, I've already seen it and it can't be undone. And there's no way to fix it. Now, honestly, at this particular point, there's no way to fix it. There's like five or six books past that.
Yep.
So
And
you can't go
that's
back
one
to
of the
right.
that's honestly one of the reasons why me with my particular brand of ADHD and all that shit, like, um I'm writing my entire series when it is a series, whether it's a trilogy, um, 4 book series, 5 book series. Um, I'm writing the entire thing and then putting it in front of editors and going, okay, this is the whole thing. Make sure that I didn't like jump the shark, freaking lose train of thought, didn't wrap up something, etc. And then I'll do a release, and then 3 months later another release, and then 3 months later another release, that sort of thing.
Exactly. And some
But
people, that's what
what's
they
gonna
do.
work. But that's what's going to work for me, and everybody is going to find what works for them.
Sticks, wiffle ball bat.
No, that's not going to happen. It's
Now
not going
you
to
have to
happen,
say
Sticks.
about yourself. I
Yep.
invoke the 3 nice things. You can either PM me the 3 nice things you say about yourself, or you can say it right now.
Yeah, see, that's self-depreciating imposter syndrome rearing its ugly head, because I still have questions about Styx's submission from last year, where there was the old timer who's still stuck to the old traditions, to Yule, and you know didn't give in to the Chris. Like, there's still so much, like, I want to live in that world more.
Right.
I want
I
to.
need to know what
Oh.
happens. I need to know why. Like, I mean, Sticks gave us a little bit of the why, but not the full why.
Now I can't unsee that.
You
Can't.
no, my wiffle ball bat is plastic, but I can make it hurt. If I have to go get the metal or the Louisville Slugger out of my trunk, I will.
No, Julie,
Mind you, if anybody's
stop.
coming across it, I do this out of love. This is a joke. This is satire. This is not. It's all in the wrist.
Okay. There's entirely too much oxygen in my nicotine system. You all have your assignment should you choose to accept it. And 7 of you already have. We still have
Yes,
Thursday, Friday, and half of Saturday, and 7 of you have already submitted. Please remember to message Julie or myself privately if you're going to be late past the 3 p.m. Central deadline, just so that we know to keep an eye out for you and whatnot.
I do think we're
Oh
going to
my
keep the
god.
wheel.
I think we're going to keep the wheel. I very much like the whole thing. Now we're still going to break it up. Okay? So
Oh yeah, we're still breaking it up in the future.
the earlier you get your submission in, you're going to be on Saturday night. The later you get your submission in, you're going to be Sunday. Okay? We'll try it again this week with the Saturday Sunday thing, see if there's just as much lag. I can tell that we do not have a lot of lag tonight. Um we may have to adjust. But regardless, we'll take the first. Basically, what we do is we take the word count and kind of split that in half, and then pick the first half of that word count as close as possible, right? And then Julie throws them into the wheel, and those people are randomized on that night, and then the remainder are randomized on the second night. I
Right.
think that was fun. I think that
And
was fun.
wheel.
Yes, and the whole cheering and whatnot is fantastic and great. Um, I even think I have an idea for something that we can do uh later on. We may even be able to put it on the screen. we may be able to put the spinning wheel on the screen. The thing Sticks
Yeah.
has shown me with using the thing and hasn't even shown me a lot, but opened up the door to possibilities. And
It lights up.
it lights up. Got the colors rotating with the
I didn't know
oh
it lit
yeah
up. Okay, cool.
oh yeah rainbows. So literally, I feel like we could actually do crazy things when it's time to roll. Could potentially hit a button and have your screen shared on the main screen, and everybody sees it and hears it. So
Right,
we're getting even more fancy, provided we don't have crap tons of lag.
right. But either which way, we're gonna go ahead and cat out for the night. Um,
As a reminder for those who have not gotten theirs in, who have not yet completed their weekly assignment, is to use this dialogue. You say that like I am supposed to be impressed. I've seen better men try.
submitted by one PA Power at Packing the Reader.
Packing the readers. May have been born out of a back and forth brotherly sisterly insult fest that was making some attendees giggle.
Oh yeah.
Oh, EJ, we're actually heading out for the night. Thanks for stopping by, though. Appreciate you.
Yep.
I popped in his stream the other day, just hanging out, seeing the progress on his book. Pretty cool.
Very much so. Okay, so don't add to the population. Don't subtract from the population. If you get your ass arrested, first of all, think about what the hell you've done. Call us. We might be able to collectively find bail money. But otherwise, be brave, be bold, but always stay humble. And we will see you on Saturday night. Same bat time, same bat channel. Bye!